You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 19th meeting of the Long Beach Advisory Plan Commission Workshop. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
So do I have to start the, well, it's a workshop. So welcome to the workshop, everybody. Brad, this is a whole new system. So Meg is, our clerk treasurer, is not going to stay for the entire workshop, but she's wondering if you'll want to share things on the screen.
Well, at this point, I'm hoping everybody has the meeting agenda in front of them. And if they don't, then at that time, as I'm kind of talking through the agenda, I can certainly share my screen. But I don't have a formal like PowerPoint presentation or anything of that nature.
All right, then yeah, everybody has a copy of the agenda. So I guess, Meg, nobody else wants to enter. So whenever you want to leave. Welcome, everybody. Brad Meisner is here from McKenna and Associates. Our newly appointed member of APC. Tom Vujovic is here. Tom.
Hi, Tom.
This is Diana Holt. The members of the APC are Diana Holt to my left. I'm Anita Remages, Matt Harstrand, Kendra Bartlett, and Seth McCormick. So
Nice to meet you all.
welcome to
Nice to meet you,
APC,
Tom.
Tom. And in the audience are Joyce Schmidt, just so you all know, president of the council, and Cindy Levy, also on the council. So Colleen Ball wasn't able to make it. And otherwise, welcome Brad Meisner. And
Thank you.
I'll let you just take it over, Brad.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. Appreciate having the opportunity to meet with you all here today to formally kick off the comprehensive plan update for the town of Long Beach. As Anita mentioned, my name is Brad Meisner, and I'm a senior principal planner with McKenna. We are a land use and planning firm based out of Michigan. Offices in Northville, Kalamazoo, and Grand Rapids. We're about 40 planners strong. Myself, I've been doing this for a number of years, almost 30 years. I'm a certified planner through the American Institute of Certified Planners, and I've worked in the states of Michigan, New Jersey, and California. And so it's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to meet you all, and can't wait to see you in person and to help you with this endeavor. It's an exciting time. With me tonight, I also have Jim McManus, and he's on the line. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim McManus. I'm a principal planner with McKenna. I've been with the firm now since January, but I have 35 years of experience in planning. I actually retired and came back to work here, so that worked out well. I'm looking forward to working on this project because I went to Valparaiso for my undergrad studies, and I've done some work in your area previously. So I have some familiarity with it, and we're looking forward to having this project completed.
Thank you, Jim. So tonight, you all have the kickoff meeting agenda. So what we were hoping to discuss this evening was obviously talk about the project and an overview of the project, talk very specifically about the tasks that were part of our proposal that we would accomplish as part of the process. But I think then more importantly, we want to hear from the APC, from the commission, on, sort of what your goals are for the comprehensive plan update, to talk a little bit about some of the issues that are going on in your community so we can hear firsthand from you, for you to let us know what we should be aware of, issues that are going on in town, other, development issues. And then we wanted to talk about the timeline and then really talk about some of the next steps, where we'll really start to get very much involved in how we're going to formulate the plan. And this will be an opportunity for us to come to town to meet you all in person. But with this quick overview today, we're hoping that we can answer any questions that you have and talk specifically about sort of the process. With that said, if everybody has their agenda, I would just sort of outline a number of the tasks that are involved. And so we're in the very preliminary stages, as you might imagine. We have began looking at the previous plan. And if any of the members may or may not know, McKenna did help the community develop its last comprehensive plan that was adopted back in January 9th of 2017. So it is time now to take a new look at the community and to update that plan. Part of that, part of the process really is going to be us working in a collaborative style with you all. We really want to have dialogue about strategic direction to again, understand what are the important issues to your community, what are the topics that we need to be focusing on. Every comprehensive plan in the state of Indiana does have very kind of parameters on what needs to be reviewed. And so in that vein, you know, there will be a fresh look at the community, a snapshot of the community. What are your demographics? What are the physical conditions of the community, natural features, land uses? We'll be looking at the maps. We'll be looking at your infrastructure and your roadway network, looking to where your community facilities are, and also just understanding the community and its values. And I think that's kind of an important thing. A lot of times in these processes, it becomes really valuable to have, you know, almost like a vision statement, but it's really a statement of what is the community's values, where is it that you're going, what is the future of your community. A comprehensive plan really is your roadmap. It's your roadmap for how you want to appear, develop, and be over the next 10, 20 years. A huge part of that is community engagement. I have worked on a number of plans and projects where the community engagement has spanned months and months and months, and projects have taken a number of years to complete. This particular scope of work that we've been hired to do is a much more sort of surgical effort. So we are going to be trying to do very efficient community engagement. And so what we'll be asking from the APC is to help us identify key stakeholders in the community, people that we should be talking to, having interviews with, and also a very strategic dialogue with the commission as well, so that we, again, understand what's important to you in the community. We are engaged to perhaps do a community survey. So that's one tool that we can use to try to find out the sentiment of what are important issues to the community as well. So we can talk about that in more detail as well. And then when you get into the actual plan itself, you're really starting to take a lot of background data, as I was talking about the snapshot of the community, taking the background data, taking community engagement, certainly everything that we're going to hear from you that's important, and start to lay out what are some of the policies of the community. What are your policies as it relates to land use? What are your policies that relate to your public infrastructure, your public places, utilities? And then what are sort of your objectives for development and growth in the future? And so once we're able to really synthesize that down and have clearly stated policies, we can work very directly on what sort of objectives that you'd like to achieve and meaningful ways to create a plan, to create an actionable plan and an implementation plan. And, you know, a lot of this is, you know, it's high level because it is a policy level document. But what I find very useful is that when we can get a community to very much focus in on what's important to them, from there, I think that you can create really clear statements and objectives of what you want to accomplish and try to come up with a plan for achieving that. Now, a lot of that's going to be funding, a lot of that's going to be public will, and a lot of it's going to be making sure that the plan is a living document, and so that you're using it on a day-to-day basis whenever you're making land use decisions or key policy decisions in your community. With that said, task 5 is future land use. So we start to map out, you know, as we know, you have a very compact community, a little over, I think, square mile, if I'm not mistaken. It's predominantly a single family residential community. So we'll be asking some of those tougher questions. Is there an opportunity for other types of housing that the community would like to see? Are there opportunities for more commercial development if that's desirable? And so we'll want to really get into a balance of your land uses. Are you looking to create more areas for employment, for local employment? Do you want to attract and retain new types of businesses? So you're starting to look at things through more of an economic development lens. And then, of course, looking at your community facilities, do you have all the adequate facilities that you need? Is the community needing more open space, more parks, more recreational facilities? Is your transportation network what you want it to be? Is there an opportunity for more trails, for non-motorized opportunities, walking, biking, those types of things? So we want to talk about all that the connectivity of the community. Are there areas where people can't get to services easily for some reason? Are there any impediments that we need to be aware of? So with all that data pulled together, we start to talk about an implementation strategy. And there again, we'll be having dialogues on that. And then we'll be leading up to public hearing processes to talk about the plan as we develop it. You'll have the opportunity to see many drafts of the plans before anything ever gets formalized, leading up to formal public hearings and then adoption. So for this particular project, we have laid out a timeline. We're looking to try to do this within 6 months. I think that's very aggressive, but I do think it is doable, again, given the fact that what we're doing here is we're taking and building off of the former plan, but then engaging as much as we're able, given sort of the budget and the timeline, to then come up with a statement, a reflection of where the community stands today. On the agenda, you do see the timeline. I've kind of laid out the tasks there. Some of the key things are some of the working meetings that we will have together beginning next month. We really would like to schedule a meeting to come to town to meet with you all to start to talk about really strategic level a dialogue that talks about what are your opportunities and what are some of the concerns. And we want to know that. When we come for that meeting, we'll have done really an audit of your existing plan. We'll have some very preliminary recommendations or points that we'll want to bring up to talk to you about, and that will help us really hone in our work plan. So with that, I think that's a really high level sort of thumbnail sketch of what we envision for the process. Like I said, we're really looking forward to working with you all. It's a very dynamic and unique community. Jim and I both have been really looking at things and trying to get as acquainted with the community as much as we can from afar. So we're doing that now. So that's sort of the overview of the process and a little bit about who we are. For the remainder of the time, we are all ears. Jim and I are both copious note takers. We are legal pad guys that like to write things down. And so on the agenda, I had just put together a few kind of thought-provoking, perhaps, questions or topics around, again, what are your big picture goals for the comprehensive plan? Are there housing, commercial issues or mix of uses that you see a need for? What are the big things that we need to be aware of? I know I've talked to Anita and Joy, and I understand there's some issues around sewers and lakeshore protection. So I know that's an issue for the community. Have there been zoning issues or any developments that have been controversial that we should be aware of? And then last but not least, are there any kind of new developments that maybe are coming along or any capital improvements that have been happening that we should be aware of? So with that said, I know I've been talking a lot and I don't want to bore anybody, but we're all ears and again, real glad to be aboard.
I guess it open. Does anybody want to start?
Anita, I'd be happy to kick it off as the new guy on the block. And
Tom, can you
Yes.
just do a quick favor and just give a like 30-second of your background? I mentioned it at the
Oh.
council meeting when you were approved, but the APC members are not aware. So just a quick 30-second, you have a good.
sure, be happy to. My wife and I, Tina, moved here about 13 years ago from, it's our second home. At that time, we were living in Columbus, Indiana. I was very engaged in community events. I was a director of community development for the city. Also served as the chairman of the redevelopment commission, plan commission, board of zoning appeals, traffic advisory committee. So I've had my fingers in a lot of pots over the years, and we're really happy to be in Long Beach. Love the community, but I will tell you, I do not have a strong background in the issues there is one in particular I'm well aware of, and that's the sewer and the beach. But beyond that, I'm all ears.
All right, thank you. And
Okay.
if you want to go ahead with your points or what you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about, go ahead.
I would just point out to Brad that in my reading of the existing plan, my feeling was that it didn't hit hard enough on the values that the community holds. And you had mentioned that, that certainly is part of the process here. But I think, being clear in how the community views itself, where it's at and where it wants to go, and how that's reflected in the values it holds. Do we want to be a welcoming committee, or do we want to be a community, one that makes space for others, or do we want things to stay as they are? Kind of leads you into different policy directions, I think. So I would say that really is the centerpiece of the work, identifying what we hold to be true and dear about the community and where we want it to go.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I think that's, in my opinion, I also think that's very important as well.
I think if I remember from our discussions, talked about, I'm trying to think of the wording about Long Beach, keeping the feel of Long Beach. I'm trying to think of the exact word. Sorry, it's not coming to me, but it was like, but then it doesn't discuss what exactly do we want to keep about Long Beach that we all love about it? Like, what is that, in fact? Like, we say we want to keep it that way, but what is the vision? What is our community? What exactly is it, and how do we want to see it kept?
Yeah.
I don't know, whoever's.
I can
ready.
hop in. I think you're gonna find, I think when we do the community survey, we're gonna find that there's been a fairly drastic change in Long Beach and who lives in Long Beach and who comes to Long Beach over the past decade or so. I think you're gonna see a pretty big movement from full-time residents to part-time residents and to summer-only residents. And I think you're going to see a little bit of change in the values of what those people are most interested in terms of development of Long Beach. I think that that's just what I suspect is going to occur. I think the community outreach aspect of this is going to be tremendously important to find out kind of like what the priority should be in terms of the many types of development options. And when I say development options, the land use options, the development options, the what we should be focusing on in terms of bang for our buck for priorities for the town itself. I think I personally would like to see a preservation of the single family kind of nature of Long Beach, and I think that will be echoed throughout both the APC, the board, and the community itself. I also think that we have a very small amount of commercial space. It's not zoned very well, and the definitions of the zone are a little bit ambiguous. I think there should probably be a focus on a development of that in an appropriate way, and a focus of making sure that the zoning ordinances and the zoning regulations are appropriate for the type of commercial spaces that we want here. I think that a top priority should be a preservation of the shorelines and the preservation of the dunes. I think that's already a priority, but I also think that that's, you know, what is there, 14 miles or 24 miles of coastline in Indiana, and we have 3 of it, I think. So, you know, that's our kind of, that's our main attraction status in terms of why people come here is that shoreline. So preservation of that resource is of the utmost importance. You know, I think that as, you know, whether you want to call it global warming or you want to call it whatever you want, I think there is an issue with lake water rise, and that bears out from year to year. You know, there's already been a push for sewers on the lakefront, mainly because there's no place to put a septic. So some development plan for preserving those homeowners' homes by providing somehow that they can live in their homes is appropriate. And I think there should be an exploration among the community if there's interest in perhaps expanding the concept of sewers citywide. Because I know there's a lot of people who have unusable space in their backyards or side yards because a septic exists, and they could remove that septic and have a sewer. They may be very interested in that. But I think that, like all things, would come down to the cost, both to them personally and to the community itself. But if there's interest in that, I think it's something that the town council should be exploring, and that could be implemented into the plan. I think, you know, there's opportunities for facility development both at Stop 24 and at the community center. We have vast kind of around the golf course, around the community center, and then at Stop 24 kind of unused space. And if it's something we want to develop or if it's something we want to improve, then we should explore that. I think it's ripe for use. You know, I don't know what the road conditions are, what the road policies are, but you know, sometimes Lakeshore Drive can get a little bouncy. So I don't know, you know, if we want to put a plan in place to make sure that the roads are protected and preserved. I know that there's some work being done kind of near Stop 22 right now, and I just don't know what the plan is to make sure that the roads are maintained. What else? I mean, those are kind of like big ticket items, I guess, that, you know, a high level that I think the community is going to be interested in. I know, I mean, going back to kind of the commercial space issue, I'm also the chair of the BZA. So I do see what comes in and comes out. There was a proposal earlier this year for kind of a liquor store to come in and buy the space that's by Hacienda. And when we took a look at the zoning ordinances, there was no setback requirements at all for any commercial space, which means that if that liquor store had been approved, it would have been able to essentially build the building all the way up to the gate of the golf course. And I'm sure that the members of the golf community would probably not be too thrilled with that. So I think a focus on, particularly when it comes to commercial zoning, but I think it also may be worth it for, you know, the APC or whoever to look at the zoning ordinances in all aspects to make sure that kind of thing, unexpected consequences of somebody who's doing something that's atypical does not catch anyone by surprise to the detriment of the.
Just to touch on what Seth talked about. So Joy and I, when we talked with Brad, the commercial space, the commercial businesses in town are very limited, very small. It's a pizza place, and then it's a sandwich, ice cream shop, and a real estate office is it. But I thought for Jim, Brad, I know Joy answered quite a few questions about sewers and roads. And Joy, I don't know if you want to speak to Seth real quickly about, just the sewers, that there are a few people that are looking at doing private sewers. And so we're hoping that maybe more people will then get interested in it, Seth, like as some things go through, and it's still preliminary stages, but maybe people will then say, well, if they can do it, then I might want to do it. And then the roads, Lakeshore Drive is part of the paving plan. Right.
Yeah,
So,
but I
but
mean,
again, it's like trying to take back the space. I mean, right? You can
Yeah,
only take
well,
roadway.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm just, I think I don't think we need answers to the questions now. I think we need to discuss, are these questions we want to address the public with, right? And then develop those into the plan itself. If it's something that people care about,
okay.
or if it's something that, the town council cares about and thinks is important, and then we can implement that into the plan. I think I'm just bringing topics up that I know have been observed by me and been observed by other and that have come before this body and the BZA. So just trying to bring them up. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's a problem with them. I'm saying that those are issues that have arisen that have not been solved.
Brad, have you ever been to Long Beach?
I have not.
Okay, if you have time, I don't know, it might help you get an understanding of where we're coming from, just to drive through. It'll take you all of 5 minutes to drive through the town. But
Yeah, absolutely.
like to echo on what Seth was saying, and Jim, I'm sure, being from Valpo, you're familiar, as Anita said, we have like 2 public or commercial buildings. And I think generally, I'm speaking for myself, maybe as a member of the town council, but I don't think anyone's plan for Long Beach wants to see economic development. We're not looking to bring businesses. We're not looking to bring in apartments. We don't want multi-unit dwellings. We don't want weekly rentals. And like some of these questions that were asked last time, there's now state laws that were passed down in Indy, like about shoreline or about the weekly rentals. We were grandfathered in, so we don't have to do weekly rentals. We can do monthly rentals. So I don't think we even need to open that can of worms again, because we're happy with monthly rentals. We don't want to petition. So those are things, some questions we don't want to open up again, but even like the
Sure.
land use developments, we asked about bulldozing the dunes. We have ordinances now in place to, not do that. But in general, like, I think the questions we should focus on are the nitty gritty questions of parks and spaces, like not just, do you want improvement in the parks? Like literally, what do you want? Do you want more swings? Where would you like to see more park space down by stop 30? Where do you want a dog park? How big would it be? Where do you think it should go? Do you think the community center should offer? Because we only have so many spaces that we can, there's the lake, there's the roads, there's homes, and then we have tennis courts, pickleball, basketball, like really get into those nitty gritty questions, like I don't know what those questions would be, but not just general, do you want more park usage? But like, what
Sure.
really do you want for the parks? That's really all we have to work with. We have like
down to the programming level.
Yeah. I was on the park board for a while and now I'm the town council. So like we don't have any transportation. We don't have transportation and we have roads. So we don't have to ask those types of questions.
Mhm.
I think as granular as we can get with people on, like I said, or even other things maybe that other towns do that I'm not even thinking of that we don't know about, but yeah, I don't know if I'm missing anything else, but like I just went through a kind of, so like some of the stuff, the land use, we have ordinances in places for that now. And then we asked about a dog park, but it seems like somehow, well, there's only 3 boats, but again, it just says add a dog park, but that's probably going to be somewhat controversial. So getting more input on that and what people would like to see and where. And then again, for sure, the sewer stuff. How do you feel about it? I don't know what we can ask, but it should definitely be a topic. I think there was one more thing. Oh, and we had asked before about like trash can. We used to have trash cans at our beach stops and we took them away. And I don't think some of those questions we probably need to put back in unless we want to go down that road. But even ask questions like, what would you like to see at the beach? Do you want more, some people, benches, water fountains? I don't know, stuff like that. Drop off, or storage for boats has been, a big one that I would like to see, because we are boating community, but we don't allow storage of items on the beach, but people have things like the sunfishes and laser boats or Hobie cats that are, you don't store them in a marina, but you can't store them in your backyard. And there's always been talk about, could we find a little space to somehow let people rent a rack for, I don't know, a couple $100. But again, I would like to see those questions, and also the nitty gritty, like, not only do you want it, where do you think it should go? How big do you think it should be? What are you willing to pay? Because people just saying like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Then we go, okay, like, great, now what do we do? Or what's the feedback going to be? So that's it for right now, what I can think of.
Thank you. That's very helpful input, because, we start from sort of that higher level to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. And so, first we want to understand, are there any aspirational goals that we should be aware of? But if we're getting down into that granular level, like you're talking about, as it relates to topics around parks and recreation and infrastructure, then if those are the most important topics that we need citizen input on, we can get very specific to ask those questions. So that will be helpful as we start to formulate survey questions.
Because is there a limit, like the plan that we're investing with you, is it like a tiered structure? Like we can ask like 1 million questions for the price we're paying, or are we at like a 100 question limit with McKenna?
We're probably in that, that 75 to 100 question limit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point you get diminishing returns because people just stop participating, right? I mean,
Right.
I would even caution against 75 questions. That seems like excessive, because you're going to get people to just not answer.
Right. And I would say that we also want to do a stakeholder meeting. So you could start with a survey and kind of ask the broader question and then some specifics regarding things. But then when you meet with the individuals in the meeting, then we can really talk about, what do you want to do with the park, and what kinds of equipment do you want to have? And it gets, maybe you can get the detailed answers at a stakeholder meeting when it's very tight with just a few people, as opposed to an overarching survey where everybody gets a chance to answer.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need some of this language in the comprehensive plan because it backs up our like ordinances, right? I want to say we were able to use this comprehensive plan with some stuff we wanted to do because it was in the comprehensive plan, right? So am I right on that? Like there's certain things we want to be able to refer back to. So if like a developer or whatever comes in, we can refer back to the 2025 comprehensive plan and say, no, like everyone did say shoreline protection was a key element. So I still want to.
Absolutely. And I think
I'm not, yeah, right. We still want to, so I don't want to like not ask those big questions that we've already kind of solved the issue to, because I think we still need them to read that language so we can have them as protection, right?
But just, I wouldn't get into the weeds on
Yeah.
like, what do you want to see change about it? It's like, is something as simple as, is shoreline protection a priority for you?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
agree. What was making me a little uncomfortable. We already have this in place. We have these ordinances. I think we need to go into this with a mind and say, is the position we've taken the correct one? Is that what the community wants? We want, that's important. It's what the whole community thinks is important.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. But back to the other point though, just real quick, sort of in the hierarchy of your regulations, right? You have your comprehensive plan, which becomes, again, we're trying to have very clear policy statements about what's important to the community. And then you're trying to effectuate that through your zoning ordinance, through your development code. So in places where, let's just say, for instance, your code was not clear or is interpretive or something of that nature, you're going to want to have that comprehensive plan to fall back on when you have clear statements around, I'm just looking at the existing plan right now, and straight away, the very first thing talks about protect the character and stability of Long Beach as a vibrant residential community. Well, that's a powerful statement. And then when you flush it out even further with objectives, then you can point to and look at, this is what we intend for our community, and perhaps what this development is not aligned with that. Maybe the ordinance wasn't clear, but our comprehensive plan is clear. Yeah.
Great.
Brad, to that point, though, I think in the existing plan, what we're working from, it makes statements like that, but then there's nothing that defines what that is.
Sure. Yeah. Very good point. And I think that's the part of getting very clear, and it's funny because I think we probably in all of our walks of life, we've all had this conversation around policy, goals, objectives, and you probably all have to go back and remind ourselves, what is a goal? What's a policy? What's an objective? And I think we'll be very clear about what that is. And then we have a statement of goals and objectives to achieve a policy. And I think we just need to focus in on that and be clear, so then you can take those and make them very actionable, whether it's through the implementation plan or through writing new codes and ordinances to make sure you're getting, on the ground what you want from your comprehensive plan.
Well, and I mean, to your point and to Tom's point, we did have a scenario. I mean, everything seems recent now, but it's probably a year or more ago where there was an effort for somebody to build like a particularly large structure. And they complied with all of because they bought so many lots, they complied with all of the zoning code requirements and all the building code requirements. It's just the house itself was gargantuan. And the building commission, some of the members decided that they didn't want to grant the permit application, fell back on the comprehensive plan and asked us to determine whether or not the comprehensive plan, this project was, or the proposed structure was in the spirit of the comprehensive plan. But there were no particulars of there were no details about, a building size being outside the spirit of the comprehensive plan. So, our response was it complies with the zoning code. Therefore, zoning code has been created around the comprehensive plan. Therefore, it complies with the comprehensive plan. If there had been more specifics, I'm not saying we would have. I'm just saying we could have at least had a standard by which we could make a decision other than it complies with the zoning code, right? So I think getting specific about what each of these things means, maybe not to an ultra granular level, because it's a comprehensive plan. It's supposed to be a guide, not a zoning code. But I think with each priority, especially the important priorities, there should be criteria and goals that we should include that I don't think we included in the last one.
Yeah.
Because it has come up. That's my point.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Brad, I just had the survey we're going to give out when we ask these questions. We'll also give people a chance to make statements as well, right? There'll be.
Absolutely. So what we typically would do is have a series of topical survey questions and then an area for open-ended comments as well.
To evaluate them as needed. I mean,
Yes.
you brought up some great point, like people want swings. I'm telling you, I've been here, swings is an issue, okay? I'm saying yes to people want swings. And I think it's a great idea. We got to find a place to put one.
Yes, but not by my house.
We don't want a bunch of people bringing their dogs here. Like that's not what the dog park is for us.
Definitely.
It's not, it needs to be like secret dog park.
You need an ID card.
There's some other, the roadways we have, we need markings. The roadways to make it safer on Lakeshore Drive, there's markings need to be placed, I think, right. It's on the agenda that just, the things that we all have great ideas and there's other people that are gonna have great ideas too. You know, we'll see that when we get to the survey part.
Or is it?
Yeah, swings and sewers.
Yeah.
Secret squirrel dog park.
And I think another thing that might be helpful is ideas on how to maximize public input in terms of getting people to actually take the survey and put some effort into it.
Yeah, how do
Okay.
you, in the simplest terms, like, is everything de-identified? Do people want it to be, or do we want to collect their names? How do we make sure, first of all, everybody's voice be heard, but,
You maximize.
no, I don't want people to fill out 10 surveys. Like, I don't want some nutty pickleball person to fill out on every email they have that like, and then I'll,
I will know who they are.
dog park person, or that like, we
Secret dog
want,
park people.
like, so is the questions on email and like a written survey, or how typically is it done?
Yeah, so typically what we will do is we'll send out the survey. We'll ask for the property owner and record of mailing list, and we can send them out. So we'll do a pretty large mailing and send them directly to residents. Now, that doesn't mean that someone might not take a copy of the survey. I think we may want to think about obviously putting it out there broadly, right? So you may want to have it at City Hall or at Town Hall, other places. So then, we'll ask people to identify, who they are, that type of thing. But it's a good point. We'll have to figure out a way to sort through if there's a multitude of surveys coming in that are watering things down.
Well, and I think we're gonna need them on email too, because there's
Mhm.
so many part-time people that the mailing.
Sure.
people- Most of my neighbors don't even have mailboxes, and it goes to a PO box and they don't ever
Okay.
check it. Like,
Yep.
so multiple ways of contacting people would be good too.
Okay, well, we'll certainly be nimble on that. Yep.
To that point, Kendra, Meg has really compiled a good list of, our clerk treasurer has compiled a pretty good list of emails for people. So that can be.
Great.
No, I agree with everything everybody said. I think it's important that just assume that what we have now is the best option. The rules and the guidelines, ordinances we have in place, I think we do need to keep an open mind. We need to open it up. Used the wrong word just a minute ago when I was talking to Kendra, and I said, maximize our responsibility, optimize response, and make the best and the truest response. Looking forward to it.
We also have, Joy is here, and Cindy Levy, another council member. Cindy, thoughts?
This is Meg. Can Cindy come up to the mic? Just no one on Zoom can hear. Sorry.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you. No problem.
I was just saying that the town has gotten much better with our use of social media. So I think promoting the survey, raising awareness through our different pages on Facebook and things like that, I think that will also be helpful. And just the one area that I would want to make sure that we are looking into, and it has been mentioned, is the community center and how to, really getting in forward. And I know I was a past member of the park board. They're in the process of redoing tennis courts. And I think it's really important to know, are we going about it the way most people want it to? And, tennis players versus pickleball players, how to really be responsive to what most people want. So I think those are just a few thoughts I had.
So Jim, just to bring you up to date, I think we talked about it, the three of us, our community center it's an old Long Beach school. And it is a National Historic, you look at on the National Register. Most of the rooms are rented out. And then we also have the biggest tenant is the YMCA. And then we have other tenants in there, an insurance agency, a woman who does personal training, cuts hair, Pilates, a woman who makes hats, an artist. There's one room currently that's available that we've listed for rent. And then there's a woman who uses a couple of the rooms and then the main courtyard for a clothing sale, a girlfriend sale. But the roof has recently been replaced, copper gutters. And so it is now a more active committee. We call it the Community Center Management Team. And so there are improvements that are being made there, but yeah, what else can we do with it? What else can we see?
That's great. Sounds like a great facility.
This is Meg Collins on Zoom, and just something to also think about, and this may have nothing to do with the comprehensive plan, but with Lakeshore Drive needing to be paved, we, as council knows, we already began preliminary engineer studies, which the town has to just pay for. And we get CCMG funds grant money from the state. So if either of you is aware of that program, the state contributes 75% of the cost of our paving projects, and the town contributes 25% plus any engineering. So point of bringing this up is it's going to be expensive to do Lakeshore Drive. All of us know it's going to become a priority more and more with the condition of the road. And also, it may not be a town resident decision at all, but, do we want to widen the road? Do people care about a bike lane? Is that even feasible for Long Beach? I think Matt was referring to what we paint on the road. Even these are just my ideas and thoughts. Do we put a walking lane, or do we, with the easements in the right of way, there would be residents with driveways and pavers that would be probably not in favor of widening the road at all. And I think we more rely on engineers for this, but just a consideration that, and also what projects, when we look at our capital plan, what projects are priority. So when we talk about the tennis courts or the items that we need that are, I don't have the capital plan in front of me at this minute, but how much paving do we want to do each year? How quickly do we want to do it? Because once we complete this this summer's CCMG, my thought is that we are moving on to Lakeshore Drive. So again, what is the town's priority with that paving schedule? How much funds we have and how much is going to go towards that paving versus other projects. So, and how quickly we can, with that sign, I don't know if these gentlemen were made aware of the sign project that there's talk of adding that to the capital plan. And I think the high end was $200,000 over a few years for the new signage. So just things to consider. Just
Appreciate
kind
that
of
very much.
Broadening your of other things that are on the radar in town. So
Yeah, that's
on the
very
finance
helpful.
side.
Yes, thank you. And we
No
we
problem.
were told about the welcome sign as well. So yeah, we're
Okay.
aware of that. Yep.
There was
Okay,
also-
thanks.
Thank you, Meg. The issue of Lakeshore Drive and you visiting Long Beach, whether you both can come, I'm sure we'd be happy to put a welcome committee together, but Long Beach is coming into our busy time, starting of course with Memorial Day. And Lakeshore Drive is just pretty much I think people would agree with me. I try to stay away from it.
Yeah.
It's a mean place. It's with bikes and dogs and strollers and, all
You're
kinds
trying to
of
drive,
things.
yeah, stay away.
Yeah, and so what do you do with that? I mean, so anyhow, that's just
Right.
another thought on like. And here comes our town attorney, Chris Willoughby, so. Joy, did you want to get up to the podium and speak so Meg can hear and everyone?
I don't really have much to add, although I think we should say something about Moon Valley.
Oh, thank
Moon
Like-
Valley,
How people feel about making sure that Moon Valley is never developed. Something like,
I'm in total agreement.
Oh, you made me think of something too. We should probably add the deer to the, right? Some deer questions?
Ooh, I don't know.
It's a big topic.
I have. looking- Hold on a minute. Oh, something that was interesting. So I'm just saying it's interesting because when Brad was on his, that's why he looks to the side. He has his screen over there. And he said, what about the big brown dog? What kind of cat? And Joy and I said, what is the big brown dog? So, but it's named the Long Beach Country Club. It's in Long Beach Country Club, the big brown dog. So we're like, what is that? I still haven't had a chance to ask anybody, but I just thought it was kind of funny that Brad, so
You have a big
whether
brown
it's
dog,
the pub had a name, but we laughed. Brad's like, well, it's right here, big brown dog,
Show me
a
that.
secret business. He had it on his.
It shows up on maps. I don't know why that is. If it's part of the private country club and it's not that,
I don't
for some
think
reason.
Secret dog.
That must not be Long Beach, Indiana. There's like Long Beach, California. there's-
No.
Along the everything. Right, like the pub or something, maybe long ago. So I didn't mean to hijack the meeting all of a sudden. Chris, do you have any thoughts on our
Looking at it.
comprehensive plan? All right, Chris, he said he's on a need to know basis. Got any thoughts or comments or give it back to Brad and Jim? I mean, I think we also talked when Seth mentioned the community, it's an aging snowbirds. We have second homes. And Matt is one of our younger members with kids. So part of it is what's our affordability? I mean, how can you afford a home in Long Beach anymore? Are there any homes for sale? Who's building? Who's going to be selling? The aging people, when will they sell? So I know we did discuss affordability, young families, high prices of homes.
Yeah, but what's? What are we gonna do? Say?
Well, it was
No, I
just
think it's an
addressing the
observation
community.
about
sell your
the
home.
nature.
You need to make it
Comprehensive plan
affordable.
Says that you have to make it affordable. Sell your home.
It was just an observation. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Limiting size has been an issue with the APC. And I actually was on that committee and it was discussed for quite a while and what the decision was. Seth, you were there too. So I
Sure.
think it was that the town, that some people felt comfortable that the ordinances in the town with setbacks, with height.
Yeah, if you comply essentially with the zoning requirements and the building requirements, then if the lot complies with it, then you're allowed to build it. And then there was a discussion about whether we should limit structure size, especially residential structure size. So, I mean, I think that would be, so just a little background, and if there's very few buildable lots remaining in this town. which means that essentially every inch of it that is, you're allowed to construct a house on, there is one. And if there's an empty lot, it's,
Sorry, this is Meg Collins again. I have to interject that based on our utility billing records, that there are at least 75 buildable lot. I don't know if they're buildable, they're vacant. They're vacant.
Vacant
So,
and buildable are different though.
right. But
So-
if you combine enough lots, then you can get to our required 12,000 square feet. So
Okay.
just
So that's
in relation to your size
That's why
discussion.
I tried to kind of scale it back a little bit. There are very, very few buildable lots. And there are more vacant lots than there are buildable lots. And so, in terms of growth, the prices are either going to go up or people are going to start to try to sell off parts of their property or try to knock down one lot and then, stretch the limits of the two lots that they divided into type thing. So we probably need to, given kind of the change, I think, and the focus on, and I think the tendency of necessarily resort communities and second home communities to start to do things like condoize and cut their lawns in half so that they can sell a lot to a neighbor so they can make a bunch of money and somebody else can build a house. I think there should be some focus on what the interest is and maintaining kind of current lot size and structure, and then also focusing on building size. And then if there is interest in limiting, especially single family residential building size, what should that be? Because we've heard everything from 3,000 square feet, which I personally think is preposterous, 10,000 square feet, which some people might find too big and some people might find just right. I don't know. But like, what would that number be? And is there interest in doing it? Because I do think that there's going to be development and on kind of like that issue in Long Beach about buildability over the next decade, probably before we do this comprehensive plan.
Can you speak?
I didn't mean to add, if you guys covered most of that, but just by way of your review, did you guys discuss Yellow Bear as
Yeah, we
an
did.
example?
We
Yeah,
did.
so that's one to, just even the size of their shed could be bigger than somebody's
Their
house,
workout
right?
room is bigger than in my house.
Yeah, and they bought the peninsula next to it and they own all of that. And again, they've tried to be reasonable and inquire and do those things, but
Yeah.
so that's all. I just wanted to make sure that you guys addressed
And
that.
we discussed like them coming back to the APC asking if plan, and to Tom and Brad's point, like we didn't have enough specifics in there except for to decide that it complied with the zoning and building.
Mhm.
So if we want to get more granular, then we ought to.
Did you have questions about Yellow Bear? I know, Joy, you and I talked about it. Brad, I think.
I do, I mean, I think I understand it to be a larger home, but if you have some more details on that, if there was like a zoning determination or something of that nature, that would be something that we would like to see and get our hands on. And that's helpful as we start to formulate, the land use policies.
Yeah, well, I think that going further with that, there was no determination. The only thing they sought was a variance for height, which was not granted, but otherwise, everything they did complies with where they are. So what we can do is make sure that you get their application for a building permit so that you can see those things in their plans. And the actual, you can pull up on Beacon and those things, to see what lots they combined.
Sure.
Together that other peninsula. And I know longer range, they have some ideas about building a bridge between the two and making a hiking trail on the other one and maybe a greenhouse somewhere. So there are things but what has been conveyed, and those really have all just been test balloons of things that they would like to do, but seemingly have zero interest in developing and building a house on that. They just would like it to make it look like one piece of property. So we can send you, if those things will be helpful, we can get those from the building commission, but otherwise what's there?
Yeah, I think they could be, just because, and I'll try to I want to make this positive. If that becomes an example or a sample of something that perhaps just isn't fitting with the character or the nature of how development ought to occur in town, then that becomes meaningful, because then we can start to draft up a policy that states sort of that overall arching, goal, and then get kind of specific in how you would set up an ordinance to prohibit something from occurring that you don't want to see happen.
And I think something unique with that project was they were thoughtful enough to go around and talk to their neighbors. They actually had support in their. So that part of it really went for a project of the magnitude that it is. And what does it have? 7 master suites or something? It's something that probably is like a small hotel, right? But
It's also
overall,
likely an anomaly.
it wasn't as right. It could be, or it could be, as you talked about, somebody comes in. It's a one-off. That how many times do you get someone with that ability to, the wherewithal to build it, and it really wasn't as controversial as you might think in terms of compliance and the things that you asked. But
Sure.
it seems like the overall overriding goal, not to speak for them, is they would not like that to become the norm.
Sure.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, would that kind of data be helpful for you? Kind of like what variant, like, in categories, like what and when I like, what are the common variances that we see at the BZA? What are the common building applications, permits that you see? I mean, that kind of information, is that helpful for you or no?
Absolutely. And the reason why is because if you start to see tendencies, you start to see trends where for some reason the code is very restrictive in an area and that leads to all these variances, that may be a data point where you want to rethink that from the policy level and then down to the code level. Or maybe it's working just right because you want the control, you want that discretion to look at those cases more carefully because of some unique circumstance. But yes, so that data is very helpful. It helps us sort of understand, what is occurring in town, what are the most common application types. I've worked in a lot of just very residential communities, so most of the development that come through is either brand new home construction, additions, and then you've got setback variances and height variances and accessory buildings that come up. And if those are the common things, then I think it's important to think about that from a land use perspective. Mm-hmm.
I know we have to wrap up and the public hearing soon. To that, your point there, I think one of the biggest changes that the BZA, Plan Commission, Town Council changed in the last few years was adjusting some of the non-conformance language.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably 95% of the variances. And I bet, how many times have we met this year? 3. And one of those was because somebody wanted to essentially put up a liquor store, right? That's what. So a lot of those have gone by the wayside. But if you were paying attention to any, there's probably not a lot of useful data for stuff is so efficient as the president here. And no, there really isn't, but for maybe looking through the non-conformance, because again, so many of these lots are non-conforming, and are there ways to address or enhance that? That's most of everything.
And I apologize real quick. I can only see the APC members. Is that Mr. Willoughby speaking?
Yeah, I'm at
We can turn this. Yeah.
That's okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Sorry about that. So
That's okay.
You're not missing anything. Just think Shrek.
You want to just walk over and stare at them?
Where is the owl these days?
The camera's right up there.
Brad, I know we got to wrap this. So what happens next? Do you form some questions and we look? I would love for this to move faster than I think it's going to move.
Okay, yeah. So what we're planning to do is I'll coordinate with Anita and Joy again to schedule time, hopefully here in June, in the next few weeks, for Jim and I to come to town and have what we're talking about, the sort of strategic dialogue with you. We'll come with some of our preliminary findings and observations of your current plan. And then we're going to have a very sort of rubber meets the road conversation about what you know, what you'd like to see in this plan. And what I've heard today has been very informational. So I think that's going to really help us. We'll collect our thoughts on what we've heard here today. And then when we come back, we'll have a chance to see in person, see the town, and talk really strategically about the next steps. But that will be a great meeting that we're looking forward to schedule in June.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Our
Good to meet
pleasure.
y'all.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thank you.